Okay, so I typically start these videos off saying I ain't gonna keep you long, but you know what? Uh, I don't know if this video is gonna be long or short, but I just feel like I got something to say, and so what I want to tell each and every one of y'all that's watching this video, like, you know, I know it feels safe and it feels humble to say that, I'm not taking risk. You know what I'm saying? I don't like taking risk or whatnot, right? And it seems cool, seems humble, but it's not. You know what I'm saying? So, one, and I ain't even gonna say one, but the main thing, look, go ahead and start taking risk. And so, you try to play it safe, you try to play it humble, by just, doing the opposite and saying, I don't want to do anything risky or whatnot. But one thing that you fail to realize is that the person that fails to take a risk takes the biggest risk at all. So let me repeat that. The person who fails to take a risk is the person that takes the biggest risk at all. And so if you wondering what I mean when I say that, is think about, something plain and simple, right? Say the lottery. Everybody says, they see the Powerball, Mega Millions or something hit, uh, say it hits $1 billion, right? And everybody's like, man, I want to hit that. I want to hit that, right? It's good to say that you want to hit the lottery or whatnot. You want to win. But if you never buy a ticket, would you ever, have a chance of succeeding, have a chance of winning the lottery? And the answer is no, So, like, there's no way you can win the lottery without attempting to play. And I'm not telling you to go out here and play the lottery. Don't get me wrong on that. Like, if you want to play the lottery, play the lottery. But my thing is just saying that if you never have skin in the game, you can never win. So, as much as you can tell yourself, I want to win, if you never attempt, like, that's the biggest risk, you know what I'm saying, involved. And then, so think about it in another situation. Think about your life, right? If you want to get out of whatever situation that you in, so say you like, hey man, I don't feel like I'm doing the thing that I'm called to do. I don't feel like I'm doing everything that I need to do, right? Um, if you never attempt whatever it is that's scaring the hell out of you, if you never attempt it, then the biggest risk that you take is just staying the same. And so, just giving a story, I remember um, a friend of mine had called me and asked me to come to U of L and speak at an event. And so, I was like, cool, man, I'm down for it. And so, just doing it. But then, just, being transparent, man, I looked at the list of people or whatnot and all the accolades and all the stuff these people had. And I'm just like, one, I thought to myself, man, I've never attended college, and you got me coming to speak to a bunch of people who are looking to go to college and on their way to college and stuff. And so I'm thinking, here it is. I'm this dude and came from the hood, ain't really done. None. The only college I've done was Barber College and stuff. And, I lightweight was like, dang, like, what am I even on this list for? Did he mean to, pick me for this list? But anyway, fast forward it going on, I went to this event and, you know, talking, I think a lot of the kids and a lot of the people there kind of gravitated toward me. And, I was able to give a lot of input, able to give a lot of help to people. And hopefully, if somebody was there, they were able to get something from it. And I just remember being like relieved after it was over. And it was like, man, all the stuff that I was thinking that, I didn't have a place, I didn't have a role, I didn't really fit in this situation. I felt like I got used in, just like a major way for real, right? And so I remember talking to one of my friends, one of my mentors or whatnot. And I was just telling him, like, the thing that I just conveyed to you, that, man, I was just kind of nervous about this and that or whatever. And this friend of mine, he's, pretty successful, pretty well off or whatnot. And so I just remember, like, when I was telling him my story, when you talking to somebody, man, like, in your mind, you like, okay, they can relate to what I'm about to say. And so when I told him what I told him, that, man, I was just kind of fearful and just wondering, like, what was my place in it, man. He just kind of looked at me and was like, Damien, like, I'm not bragging or nothing. He said, but, for me, he said, man, I just, like, I don't have fear. Like, I can't really relate to that. You know what I'm saying? And I was just like, dang, you know what I'm saying? And he's like, man, I'm not bragging, but I just think God has not put that, like, fear. He said, when I hear people talking about they was afraid of something, they was scared of something. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, dang, bro, like, man, that just kind of hit deep because, for me, I started thinking, like, there's a lot of things that I've been fearful of. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, even when it comes to, you got the bully in the neighborhood, you got this person, you got this. And then a lot of times when, say even you got the bully in the neighborhood, after you finally get it in with the bully and probably beat his ass for real, right? You start thinking to yourself, like, why was I ever scared of this person? Why did I ever even have any fear? And so what I'm saying in this is that, like, as we go through life, sometimes that fear is like that giant, that bully, that person who's in front of us, and we got to figure out how to take that giant out. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, sometimes the risk that you are scared to take is that bully. You know what I'm saying? Because in your mind, you start to put together all the ways that it won't work, but you never put, together the reason that it will work. And then what happens when the success actually hits and you accomplish it. You know what I'm saying? And so, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that really stuck in my mind or whatnot, and even going back and thinking through something else, I remember, like, even when I met my wife, like, right, like, going through this situation, I remember a friend of mine, man, he was always, when you young and stuff and we talking to these girls and, man, I just felt like he would always approach all of these different girls and stuff. And I'm just like, I remember asking him one day, I said, man, how you be approaching all these girls like this, man? You getting some bad girls, you getting this and that or whatever. And dude said, man, he said, the way I look at it, man, the worst thing that a girl can say is no. If you ask her for a number or you ask to, get with her or something like this or whatever, man, worst she can say is no. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, dang, like, I really didn't weigh those two together. But when I think about it, meeting my wife, I remember passing that same stuff off to a friend of mine, and I'm telling him, like, in being cool and stuff, being in the mall and, back in the Galleria. If you're in Louisville, you understand the Galleria, but, my wife was walking through the mall, just so happened, just a girl, I never even knew her, but I was trying to tell my friend, I was conveying that same thing to him of like, man, this is how you talk to girls, because I just learned from my other friend and stuff. So, me just trying to be cool and get numbers and, meet different girls and stuff. I was telling them, like, man, the worst thing a girl can say is no. And just so happened, you know, like, I told him, I said, look, man, I'm gonna show you how to talk to a girl. So the next girl that comes through, I'm gonna talk to her. I'm gonna get her number and stuff. And then, matter of fact, I'm gonna give the number to you or whatever. So, whatever, just so happened the next girl who was walking through the mall happened to be my wife today. You know what I'm saying? But, like, she was walking through the mall and I went down there and I, did what I did. And, even with a little fear, a little hesitancy in me, I'm still like, you know what? I'm about to go through with this plan. And I asked her for a number and stuff or whatever. She gave me a number, name, and all this. And, like, I told him afterwards, I was like, man, you see what I did? He was like, man, you ain't talked. I said, yes, I did. You seen her write a number down. He was like, give it to him. I said, nah, I'm keeping this one. But I think, just going through that, I'm just telling you, like, go ahead, get the fear out of your mind. Go ahead and take the risk. Like, stop overthinking, stop overcomplicating it. And, all you can do is try. And, just ironically, I'm sitting here in this Jefferson Mall parking lot. If you are in Louisville, You know what Jefferson Mall is. And so I'm sitting in this Jefferson Mall parking lot, and even as I think, like, you know, any shopping malls can pile of, you know, all of these different stores and stuff. And you think of every store that has been in this mall. You know, some people grew up and they like, hey, I remember this store being here. I remember this being here. I remember this food place being here. I remember all of this. Like, all of this mall is compiled of a bunch of people who got out and said, I'm gonna take risks. So you know, as you look at this mall, we didn't have rumors and stuff that it's supposed to be closing down and shutting down and stuff. But there's so many people who were able to take risks and try their hand and jump into this mall and open up a store. Some of these people have moved on to bigger places. Some of the stores have shut down. Some of the stores are still thriving in this place. Some of these people have been here so long that they trying to keep it going. But all I'm saying is that it's compiled of a bunch of people who have jumped out and taken risk, and you never know what the risk taking would get you. But like I said, if you never take the risk, you will never be able to, like, one, you won't be able to live with yourself. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember too, something else that I had read a while ago, and I forget what they did the survey with, but I know it was a bunch of people who were in the age anywhere from, like, I guess 90 years old and up. And, you know, it's kind of like an old folks home, but they were asking all of these people, like, you know, if you could go back and you could change something in life, what is it that you would have done more of? And they were saying overwhelmingly, those people all said, man, I would have took more risk in life. And so as you think about it, we only have a short time on this earth, right? It feels long at times, and other times you realize how short it is. And we are so afraid of trying. And in this time that you are living, you know what I'm saying? Like, we will live and we will die. Like, that's not a question, right? Get out here before you die and just take the risk, like, experience it. You know what I'm saying? Jump out, try new things or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? And like, even when it comes to eating, I used to be one of these people who would just like, man, I'm never gonna try this. I'm never gonna try that. I'm never gonna try this. And even when it comes to life, man, hey boy, I never do that. I never, you know, but I think, you know, it just kind of limits you because some of these experiences, some of the food that you probably taste, some of the whatever activities that you could try, if you never try them, you will never know if you like them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like most things that you can do in life is not to the point of death. So, you know what I'm saying? Just because you try something, it don't mean it's going to kill you. It may change you up. It may, you know, help you challenge you to overcome a fear or something. But, you know, stop limiting yourself and thinking what you can't do. You know what I'm saying? And another story real quick, you know, even for like, you know, I felt like my younger son, when he was playing basketball, man, we was driving to his practice one time and he looked at me and he's like, man, daddy, he said, man, I think my coaches overestimate me. And I'm like, man, nah, man. I said, I think the opposite. I said, man, I looked at him and I told him, I said, man, I think you underestimate yourself. You don't realize what you can do, what you are capable of. And I think that's like, even as I was telling him, it's like I felt like I was getting that same lesson to myself. So, you know, as I look through and I think, like, how many times do we underestimate what we can do? Even when it goes back to what I was saying with the bully situation. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are so afraid of, you know, the bully in the neighborhood, the bully in your life. You are so afraid of whatever this bully is that it stops you from being able to reach your potential. It stops you from being able to do whatever it is that you call to do. So, you know, anyway, yeah, like I said, I didn't know if this video would be long or short, but whoever it's meant for, I pray that you get it. And, you know, I'm soaking it in myself, you know what I'm saying? So, I haven't mastered this stuff, but, you know, that's just really something that I wanted to say. So, you know, stop being afraid to take risks, you know what I'm saying? Because like I said, you are taking a bigger risk not taking a risk. You know what I'm saying? So get out here and try. You know what I'm saying? Like, you never know what you can do. And then, yeah. So anyway, until the next video, I'm out. Peace.